There you go, Miss Jennifer.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I want to welcome everyone to the Board Development Committee of the West End Opportunity Partnership. It's Tuesday, May 7th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'm going to call our meeting to order. We've had an opportunity to interview a couple of candidates, so we're going to be discussing that today. But first, I want to welcome our newest member, Dr. Douglas Craddock from the University of Louisville. We welcome you as a member of this committee. And appreciate you joining us today very much. We are missing one of our committee members who sends her regrets. Gina Dunlap is unable to be with us today, but we have a full agenda ahead of us. But first and foremost, I want us to have an opportunity to review the meeting minutes from our last meeting, March 22nd. Those were sent over to you in your packet. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review, and when you're ready, I'll take a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you, Chris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the meeting minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That motion passes. So next up, I want to give you a few updates before we get into the decision we have to make together today. So first, I just want to acknowledge that since this committee last met, we did see that the legislation that would codify the board's preference for how we seat members as their terms are up for renewal. That legislation was passed last month, and thank you to Rita and Laura for communicating that out to the board in real time once that happened. As such, we now hopefully, unless we have other concerns or questions around that, I felt like our last conversation, both at this committee and at our full board, was, as Chris earlier stated, it was not smooth, but hopefully it helps us build the resilience we need to manage through conflict together. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. I'm just hoping that as we come out of some of the storming stage of development of this board, we can integrate lessons learned. I know I certainly have, and hope that we can put that in the rear view and move forward in a really productive manner together. So to that end, I want to talk a little bit about where we go, because I need your input and want your input to determine our way forward, because we have a number of seats that are up for renewal that have been pending and that are approaching to be renewed in the next few months. And it is a number of us. Rita has prepared, and I appreciate this, Rita, a document to help us. As I mentioned the last time, my goal is to get us ahead of this. So we're going to be playing catch up for a minute, and then I commit to you, we're going to be proactive so that we're not feeling like we're pressured or rushed to meet some of these deadlines. With that said, I want you to know that I specifically want to give you an update on the NAACP seat. Clearly, that has been one of prominence during this period of time. I actually this morning had a conversation with Mr. Cunningham, the CEO of the NAACP. He and I had a really friendly, positive, productive conversation. He let me know that his board recently met to decide their way forward, and they actually decided to table a decision for now. They want some additional time to consider the best approach. I think we all appreciate and recognize the importance of the decision facing that organization. And as my board colleagues, I want you to know that I expressed explicitly to Mr. Cunningham that it is the desire of all of us to retain the NAACP on this board. And I sincerely hope that we can find a way forward together. To that end, he and his organization is dealing with things related to JCPS, totally unrelated to this board's business, but very important also. So he and I agreed that we would circle back in 2 weeks and have a meeting that would include Rita and Laura to discuss any questions or concerns that the NAACP may still have, so that ultimately he will go back to his executive committee and seek a decision so that in the next 30 days, we understand what the NAACP is choosing to do as it relates to the partnership. So let me pause there and see if you have any questions or concerns, but I thought that was the most pressing update I wanted to share with you today. Okay. Hearing none, let me give you some additional updates about other members of our board whose terms are either have been up for renewal and been pending action of this committee or will be approaching soon. So that includes some of our neighborhood members. And one of the things that I need us to talk about today is what an equitable process looks like to renew our neighborhood members. We had an initial process that included having people represent their neighborhoods and send us nominees, and then we elected from those nominees. So the question becomes, how do we re-engage those neighborhoods? Do we go back to the same individuals who were responsible for sending us nominees last time? Do we look for new informal leaders to send us nominees? How do we send out that call to action? And how do we organize this together so that we have some time on our schedules over these next few months to start interviewing candidates? So there's a lot to unpack there, but I want to go through the list of whose terms are up for renewal. And that includes you, Ms. Burns. Our Shawnee seat is up for renewal. We have I'm doing the neighborhood members first. Dr. Jones from Russell, Mike Nagel from Portland, Desmond Smith from Algonquin. I wasn't sure if you knew I was getting ready to tell you were sharing your screen.
I was pulling up the list for you,
looking for that
Jennifer.
list. Thank you. That would probably be a good visual for everyone to be able to see. Let's see. Those are the only neighborhood members. Oh, good. Here you are. So I mentioned the neighborhood members of our board that are up for renewal. So I want to talk about that. So I will circle back to that. But first, I also want to let you know that Dr. Craddock's seat is up. Now, Dr. Craddock has let us know that he would be delighted to continue his board service. That seat, remember, is in a different category, along with Simmons, the governor's representative, as well as the mayor's. And so I've reached out to President Schatzel to get her input on how she would like to handle the seat that Dr. Craddock sits in. But I appreciate you, Dr. Craddock, for your willingness to continue your board service. We've talked about the NAACP seat. One West, their seat is up in June, June 29th specifically. So we'll talk to Jessica about her interest in continuing forward on the board, and then we'll consult with Yvonne regarding the One West seat. Let's see, we have the actually he's now Secretary Jackson.
Yes.
And I'm going back and forth between there you go. Okay. So his seat is, thank you, Rita, making that edit in real time. His seat is up for renewal at the end of June. So that will be another decision of the governor as to how he wants to move forward with that particular seat. Going down the list now, the Louisville Urban League. So I will reach out to Lyndon, and then I'll reach out to the board chair of the Louisville Urban League to confirm Lyndon's interest in continuing forward as a nominee, and then the Louisville Urban League's response to the opportunity to renew that seat, hoping that that will move forward in a positive way, of course. And then last but not least, we have Dr. Wade, the mayor's representative. Her term ends at the end of June. So we'll be discussing with Dr. Wade in the mayor's office the way forward for that particular seat. So that is, I guess, a quick summary. And thank you, Rita, again, for sharing your screen so that everyone can visualize this information. I want to go back now to the neighborhood seats and get some great thinking from this committee as to how we should organize our next steps, hoping that our neighborhoods leaders will nominate again our existing board members should they wish to continue to serve for continuity's sake, but also to identify some new prospects. And Rita, I see your hand.
One correction with regard to the mayor's seat, that actually, you said it was ending June of this year. It actually ended June of last year, but they decided to keep her in that seat. So
Thank
she's been functioning in that capacity, but it
Thank
will come up for conversation again.
Thank you.
I
Excellent.
just wanted to make sure we were clear on that.
Thank you. That's super helpful. Okay. So what is on your all's minds related to moving forward with neighborhood nominees?
So Jennifer, thank you for sharing the update as well as the previous process. I do think we should reconsider, like maybe having some different point people. That's the process that we choose as it relates to nominate. I mean, it just provides more equity across the board, more opportunity for input for everyone to be a part of the process. I think we should do, I guess, nominations and recommendations no different than when somebody's being nominated for a particular award, or whatever the case may be. Maybe utilize our website as a proponent. There's self-nominees or individuals that want to be nominated, and maybe open that window maybe up for a 2 to 3 week period. I'm not for sure, to allow people to be engaged and make it a fillable form. Why you want to be a part of the board. So kind of pre-screening. So if you take out time to fill that out, that provides, one level of desire, but also ideal of what are you seeking, why are you seeking to be here, and what that looks like. And then maybe as a board, just a suggestion, we pre-screen those that come in, and then we decide the next steps of who we should interview, and that be a part of the process. So that's one entity, and utilizing technology, but also current board members, but other representatives from the neighborhoods too. It's
Great.
something that came to mind real quick.
Thank you. Excellent feedback. Thank you.
So do we still have the names of those nominators and the people who applied to be
We do.
on the board?
Yes.
So I think those would be good people to reach out to as well, to let them know that those spots are open. And I don't know if the nominator process itself would make more sense, because I think that as a board, if we, I know we had some trouble filling some of those spots, but
Right.
also we have to look at, some things like attendance and, those who are actually taking the position seriously and participating. So, I think that at some point the board needs to have input, especially for those, veterans who've been around for a while, as well, to have some kind of feedback as well.
That's good. So let me reflect back what I'm hearing so far. And then Alicia, of course, I want to hear your perspective. Are we saying that maybe now that we're to this stage of development, instead of going back to the nominator, certainly communicate to everyone who we've had contact with that the nomination process is reopening for these specific seats? We've used that kind of fillable form before, as well as a handwritten form, so that it's accessible to everyone. Not everyone has access to technology, so we made sure, Dr. Craddock, that we were covering all of our bases. But do I hear you saying, Chris, specifically to just, instead of using the nominators, do we just have a large funnel where everything's coming into the committee and we sift and sort and come out of it with a couple of nominees that we want to interview? Is that what you were saying? I want to make sure I'm tracking.
Well, I think that we most definitely should have some input, but I also feel that the neighborhoods should also have some input as well. So
Yes.
I know we talked about Portland and we talked about Russell and was it Shawnee? But I know Portland and Russell have very good communication systems.
Yes.
So they can most definitely get that word out. I'm not so sure about what Shawnee, how they work, but I just don't want it to be like, okay, well, we're picking and choosing, who's
Yes.
representing the neighborhood.
Right.
But I do feel we should have some input on that. But at the same time, we need to let anyone who wants to, throw their hat in the ring, at least get a fair shot at it.
So it's both and. Utilize those influencers in the neighborhood and have a blanket open call for anyone who wants to come to us directly.
Correct.
And just to
Yes.
recap, you're right. Russell, Portland, Shawnee, of course, is Alicia's, and then we have Algonquin. So those are the 4 neighborhood seats that are being contemplated for now, but those other seats will be coming up for renewal too. So whatever we decide on for this phase, we'll want to apply for those other seats. Rita, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was just listening to what Chris was saying in the comments that Dr. Craddock made, and I was just thinking how you level the nomination process. And I think several people have used the term. If you do an open call to any of the 9 neighborhoods, anybody who wants to be considered has an opportunity to do that. They don't have to rely on some nominator or some committee person. They can all be funneled in through the process that Dr. Craddock and you, Jennifer, have identified it. Open call, media, however we do it, create that process and let anybody self-nominate if they want to be considered. So there's no confusion about anybody being considered or being nominated.
Good.
And I think, Jennifer, you made a good point. I felt the references about the lack of technology. That's where we utilize the office space. To say, hey, if there's stop by the office, or even, if there's opportunity for us to pick up, or, just to make sure that everyone has that chance to be a part of the process across the board, I think is extremely important. So
mail in an application, Dr. Craddock, if that even works better.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Alicia, how's all this sounding to you?
I mean, it sounds good to me. I mean, I wish I could expound more, but I think everybody's hit all angles of it.
Okay.
My only concern, and I don't know how we can maneuver through it, is now that when I applied for it, or when I try to get into it, nobody knew much about it.
Yes.
Now it has a reputation. Now it has, so the individuals that's going to put their names in the pot will be on a different levels. You know what I mean? So it's really about us being very strategic on who we select in that process.
Excellent point. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Okay, so I'm being mindful of time. We only have 12 minutes remaining and we have to get to another important matter. So may I summarize in this way and tell me where I get it wrong? We'll summarize this in writing so that we can see what we're saying. We want to develop a process that is very accessible to the 4 neighborhoods that will ultimately be applied to the other 5 over time, but it will include a variety of communication channels that will seek to enlist nominators again from each of those 4 neighborhoods, and then also send out a clarion call to anyone and everyone in those 4 neighborhoods that are interested in self-nominating. We'll have something on our website, we'll have a fillable form, we'll open up the office to make it accessible, we'll offer to make sure that we'll close any gaps that any individual may have in terms of the application process. This is a great opportunity for our committee to partner again with Dr. Jones and Dr. Wade, communicate community engagement and communications respectively, to really mobilize this board to start communicating this in unison. And then what would be ideal is we talk about this process at our May meeting, activate this process in June and July. I don't know if we think 60 days over the summer is enough time, but it would be great going into August, September that we have a slate of candidates to bring forward to our full board. How does that sound for now to you all?
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I think one more thing it does, it sets a precedence for us. As we know, as board seats are coming up, we can start this process maybe 6 to 7 months prior. And then there can be maybe a shadowing or something like that for them to be with whoever the current member is with the newcomer and welcome them in. So, yeah.
I like that so much. I've even said, Dr. Craddock, regarding like the next decision that we're going to make, we've had the Republic Bank candidates that came forward. We've had just such strong candidates, and that's a great problem to have. I want to frame that as us building our succession pipeline, right? So it's not no forever to those other candidates. It's no right now, but continue to engage. And that would be a nice succession pipeline that over time this board starts self-perpetuating in a much easier way. We're doing the heavy lifting now to build the process and build the buy-in, but over time, I love the idea of really having a robust pipeline. Okay. All right. So with that said, I want to open it up now for discussion of the two candidates, Mr. Smith and Ms. Hawkins, from Community Ventures, and see what's on your minds. Speaking of having a good problem on our hands in terms of high caliber candidates, I know that we wrestled with this a bit at our last meeting, which is why I appreciate the recommendation to circle back and have the full committee meet Kevin today. I hope that was helpful to everyone. He's certainly impressive, as is Cherie. So let me open it up to you now and start to invite your point of view, and then ultimately ask for a motion to have a nominee go before our full board. And Laura, I welcome your input here as well, because of your history and your working with both Kevin and your awareness of Ms. Hawkins. I don't think you've had quite the working relationship there, but would welcome your input before we get started as well.
Well, let me say really briefly that Kevin has been invaluable to us. He's committed to assisting us with the responsibilities that we have. And I think he's illustrated that via the services that his organization has offered us to date, the financial services. He has always been accessible, very straightforward, cordial, and interested in any communication that he has had with us. And you can tell by his brief recitation of his credentials that he has been in the community development and nonprofit financial institution business for quite a period of time. He also has contacts all across the state, which will be at our disposal in terms of friend building and making connections in order to capitalize on the information that's available within the financial institution ranks in the Commonwealth. So I think his leadership role at the top of the organization would just lend so much to us, that and his level of commitment already.
Thank you for that input. I think you know him, I think, best out of all of us. So that's helpful perspective.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Rita's also had an opportunity to work with him directly. He has been the person who has done our financials since we've been in existence. And again, his assistance has always been prompt, courteous, supportive. He
And,
has
you know,
shown
and he's
already-
worked, he's worked in the footprint, you know.
Yes.
He knows what we're doing and what we're trying to do. I don't know Ms. Hawkins that well, although she and I share a common last name. That's my maiden name. So I got to do a little research, make sure we're not related. But she was very impressive too in her capacity. But I just think Kevin, given his seat, takes it to another level with regard to what we're trying to do in this space from an economic development standpoint.
I thought it was
To the
real
camera.
interesting when he talked about his role at when there was a bankruptcy at Jay's and his role with the chef space. I mean, that entire transaction that was done was really life-saving for the community. And there have been a number of folks who have graduated, so to speak, from the chef space and have gone on to have their own independent businesses. So he understands the supportive role that we are required to play to help to launch small businesses in West Louisville, because he's already done that. He's done that from his vantage point as leading his bank.
Laura and Rita, am I understanding you to say without saying, but what I'm hearing is that perhaps we consider today Kevin coming onto the board as our nominee and considering Cherie as his understudy and that succession pipeline that we were discussing earlier?
I can say that that is my intent. That's what I would support, but at the same time, I don't have a vote on this committee. All I can do is influence and provide information.
Sure.
But that would be my preference. I don't see how we could go wrong with Kevin.
Well, I do think that obviously as our leader, your and Rita's voices are really important to this process. So I just appreciate your candor and your perspective so much. Let me open it up to the committee now and get your reaction to what you've heard and what you've seen so far from these two candidates.
I'll jump in real quick. I like Kevin as well. I think that the chef space actually really did sell me, just for the simple fact of the way that, you know, has operated. I really feel that aligns with what we, you know, are here to do. And even the stuff he was doing and talking about housing, I think that's going to come into play as well and be very important with this board as we deal with this TIF. So I think I would most definitely go with Kevin as the nomination for this board seat.
Okay. Their thoughts, Alicia.
So I appreciate Ms. Rita and Ms. Laura's opinion. And I'm saying this based off of not what they said, but I am in agreement, mainly because I'm an advocate that someone's character should beat them before you meet them. So I actually did my own research regarding him. I was biased at first. I liked the first candidate that we interviewed. I thought she was phenomenal on many levels. But as I look at a business perspective, an economics development perspective, the TIF knowledge, the understanding that it can be a difficult task, and his willingness to serve even though he doesn't have to. I commend him for that. So I am also believing that Kevin would be a good fit, especially in the stage that we are in right now with the partnership.
Nice, excellent feedback. Thank you. I love your research-oriented mindset. So thank you for that. I love that. Dr. Craddock, anything to add?
No, nothing to add. I agree with what's been stated.
Excellent. I just want to say I appreciate so much the work of this committee, the thoughtfulness that each of you apply to this process. This is a good process. And I even love that we pressed pause and circled back to Kevin to really give it the inclusiveness that it deserves. So with that said, I am seeking a motion now for a nominee.
I move.
Okay, and Alicia, is your motion to move forward Kevin Smith as our nominee?
I move that we select Kevin Smith as our nominee for the financial seat.
Thank you. Perfect. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Don't see any opposed. It looks unanimous. So that motion passes. We will now take that forward at our May meeting, which before we close, I want to clarify the date for that. And then we'll circle back and communicate to Kevin that he is being recommended by this committee to the full board at the May meeting. We'll also communicate to Ms. Hawkins that we were really impressed, and I think we all were, Alicia. I couldn't agree with you more. She is quite a dynamic, impressive leader herself. So it is our goal of this committee to keep her engaged and to make sure Kevin's keeping her engaged as well, so that we could consider her in the future should that work out for all parties. So with that, Rita, Laura, can you clarify our next board meeting date? Has that been solidified?
Yes, that we had some, back and forth because the 27th is actually Memorial Day. And so we were looking at the 28th, 29th, and 30th. Right now, we've landed on the 29th, but we wanted to check with people. That's a Wednesday at 4:30. Does that work? Now, Dr. Craddock, I do not feel sorry for you that you will not be at this meeting because he will be in the hula hula land over in Hawaii. So, Chris, does that work for you? And Alicia, does that work for you? 29th of May.
Yes.
No, I will be in Miami myself, so,
Oh,
No.
wow.
Are you gonna be in Miami?
yes, I've
Or
got.
are you just teasing?
No, I have to attend a birthday party.
I have to.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah.
Okay, I have,
Yes.
okay,
I
all
have
right.
to. Okay,
I think
see,
we're gonna,
Chris.
we're gonna work toward quorum for the 29th, Jennifer, and I will
Okay.
circle back to just confirm that we're in fact going to do that. But you know,
Okay.
Chris, you could step outside of the birthday party and get on the link if you think that might work.
That may be possible if it's
Oh.
early.
Okay, okay.
It's too early.
I'm teasing with you, Chris.
Okay. Well, committee members, thank you so much. And Rita and Laura continuing to lead us forward. I appreciate so much all of the conversation today and in our previous meeting. Let us summarize where I think we landed, send that back to you to make sure we're all blessing it together. And then we'll be ready to discuss it at the May meeting. In the meantime, I'll be reaching out to those other members, our 4 neighborhood colleagues, to ensure their interests. Alicia, I won't put you on the spot right now, but I'll be calling you offline to make sure that you're interested in being considered for your terms to be renewed. And then the other members that I discussed as well, and we'll continue to keep you posted so that we can move this process along. In the meantime, you know how to find me if you'd like to discuss anything further. And with that, I'll seek a motion to adjourn. Rita, do you need to say something first? Yes.
Yes, on the agenda, did you have any comments? We had Simmons and Foundation, the Foundation seat on the agenda. Did you have any comments or do you just want to wait till the next time?
Rita, I think I'll wait till the next time because I don't have as complete updates as I would like today. So let me have a moment to get a more complete update for my colleagues here, promising to fulfill every seat and make sure everyone, or fulfill the updates of every seat at our next meeting, if that's okay. Thank you for asking
Okay.
though.
All
Okay,
right.
do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
all in favor signify by saying aye and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Have a good evening,
Have a good evening,
everyone.
everyone.
Okay, thank you all.
Stay safe.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Here.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.